know what's underrated? Athlete's foot. People always go on about honor and cherry blossoms, but honestly, nothing says way of the warrior quite like peeling off a sock to reveal a fungal landscape that looks like it's deep in negotiations with your big toe. Hi there. Before we step into the glorious mud-caked sandals of samurai misery, let's get formalities out of the way. If you like grim history served with a side of sarcasm, hit follow so I can keep serving it up. Drop a comment with your country and what time it is for you. Or don't. Maybe you're busy scraping lice out of your scalp in a tatami mat hovel. I'll wait. All right. You're a samurai. Sort of. That's what people will call you anyway, but don't go thinking you're Tom Cruise in a fancy robe. You're more like an underpaid, overworked assistant manager at a medieval fast food joint, where instead of cheeseburgers, you serve up obedience and the occasional disembowelment. Let's set the scene. You wake up before sunrise in a room that's best described as minimalist chic, if you're being generous, or the reason you have back problems at age 23, if you're being honest. The tatami mat under your side is a miracle of Japanese engineering. It somehow manages to be both too hard and too soft, offering neither comfort nor support. Your back aches, your knees ache, your face aches, because you slept with your cheek pressed against your own arm, and now it smells faintly of last night's fish stew and the rank sweat that never quite leaves your skin. You're already wishing for a hot bath, knowing you won't get one for at least another 3 days, unless you want to risk dishonoring your Lord by smelling like a normal person. Outside, dawn is just starting to drag itself over the horizon, painting the walls with a weak sort of light that's more accusation than invitation. You listen. Somewhere, someone's already started hammering away at a wooden practice dummy. The dull thuds echoing through the barracks. That guy, always eager, always making the rest of you look bad. You briefly fantasize about his sword snapping in half, but then remember that you'll just be ordered to clean up the mess. Your first task of the day isn't sword practice. What are you? In a movie? No, the first thing you get to do is bow. Bow to your lord if he's wandering the halls this early. Bow to the senior retainers. Bow to the cook. Bow to the dog that's been living under the veranda since last winter. It's a whole ecosystem of spinal curvature, and heaven help you if you do it wrong. Too deep, and you look like you're mocking them. Not deep enough. And that's a one-way ticket to decapitation day, which, contrary to the poetic image, is less honorable last stand, and more, oops, you annoyed someone who has a sword and too much free time. You shuffle out into the cold morning air, the boards creaking beneath your feet. Your knees pop loud, rude and impossible to disguise. The guy ahead of you, Sato, shoots you a look. He's been here longer. His hair is tied back in a neat top knot, his kimono is actually clean, and his eyes have the dead, haunted look of someone who's seen what happens when you spill sake on the Lord's favorite scroll. Sato nods at you, and you nod back. It's an entire conversation, compressed into chin movements. Sato's voice is a low mumble as you stand in line waiting for the morning roll call. Did you hear? The Lord's in a mood today. You grunt. Of course he is. He's always in a mood. Sometimes it's, let's have poetry time and pretend we're cultured. Other days it's, who wants to die for my amusement? You never know which version you're going to get, which is honestly more stressful than battle. Roll call is a festival of boredom. The senior retainer, an ancient man whose beard has more seniority than you do, reads names with the enthusiasm of someone reciting laundry instructions. You try to stand up straight, but your left foot itches like there's a family of crabs holding a reunion down there. You discreetly try to scratch it with your other heel, only to catch Sato's smirk. He's seen it all before. After roll call, breakfast. Don't get excited. The food here is what you'd expect if you told a chef to make rice, but without the joy. Bland, sticky, and always either too cold or too hot, never in between. Today, you get the added bonus of a single pickled plum, wrinkled and sour, staring up at you like it knows something you don't. You look tired, mutters Yuki, the only other samurai here under the age of 30 who still has most of her teeth. She shoves a bowl toward you, her fingers sticky with whatever passes for miso soup this week. She's always got a sharp tongue, but at least she doesn't try to lecture you about honor before breakfast. Didn't sleep, you mutter, not wanting to elaborate that it was the sound of Sato's snoring mixed with the endless scratching of lice that kept you awake. You're tempted to ask Yuki if she's found an effective way to get rid of them. But last time you did, she recommended burning the futon, and you're pretty sure that would count as property damage. Breakfast is a quiet, grim affair. Everyone chews slowly, eyes fixed on the table, pretending not to notice the way your stomach makes strange, protesting noises. You wonder if a real samurai ever had to worry about constipation. You doubt it. Probably too busy writing death poems and dying tragically. You, on the other hand, are just trying to make it to mid-morning without accidentally offending someone important. After eating, it's time for chores. You'd think, given all the movies, that a samurai's day would involve rigorous sword drills and maybe a little meditative reflection under a waterfall. Instead, you're handed a broom. Not for dramatic dueling, but for scraping dried mud and dog poop off the front steps. Sato is already outside, sleeves rolled up, muttering curses as he tries to pry something unspeakable out of the cracks in the wood. You join him, because what else are you going to do? Throw yourself on your sword because you can't get the smell off your hands. Why do we even have dogs? You grumble, scrubbing at a particularly stubborn patch. Sato grins, flashing crooked teeth. They keep the rats away, and the rats keep the snakes away, and the snakes keep the lords from getting bored. He shrugs. Circle of life. You're not convinced. The only circle you care about right now is the one your arm makes as you scrub, over and over, until your back aches and your fingers are numb. Somewhere behind you, Yuki is arguing with a junior retainer about how many grains of rice constitute a generous portion. You half listen, half zone out, dreaming of a day when you might actually get to use your sword for something other than chopping firewood. Eventually, the chores are done, or at least they're done enough that no one will yell at you for slacking off. You wash your hands in a basin of cold water, the dirt swirling away in little eddies, and look up to see Sato studying you with a lopsided grin. You ever think about running away? He asks, mostly joking. You snort. Where would I go? The next village. I'd just end up doing the same thing there, but with worse rice. He laughs, and for a moment, you almost feel like you're in on some cosmic joke. The joke, of course, is that no matter where you go, you'll always be a samurai meaning. You'll always be at the bottom of someone else's to-do list. Once the morning chores are finished, you're summoned to the training yard. The yard is a patch of ground so trampled and beaten down that nothing grows there except your sense of inadequacy. Senior samurai line the edges, arms folded, faces expressionless. You and the others line up, wooden training swords at the ready, waiting for instructions. The drill master is a man named Genji, who has the personality of a thunderstorm and the patience of a man who's been stabbed 4 times and lived to regret it. He paces in front of you, his eyes sharp, his voice sharper. Form. He barks. Everyone snaps to attention, or tries to. You feel the sweat breaking out under your collar, dripping down your spine in a slow, itchy trail. Genji stops in front of you, looks you up and down, and shakes his head. Too slow, too weak, too soft, he shouts, as if your very existence is an affront to the concept of sharp objects. Again, you swing your sword, trying to remember the exact order of movements, up, down, left, right. It's supposed to be graceful, a dance of death. In your case, it's more like a dance of mild arthritis and existential dread. The sun is getting higher, the air getting hotter, and you can feel the sweat soaking through your clothes. Your wooden sword is slick in your hands, and by the 3rd repetition, you're convinced your arms are about to fall off. Genji walks the line, correcting posture with a flick of his stick. When he gets to you, he raps your shin, hard enough to make you wince. Samurai must be strong. Samurai must be swift. Samurai must not wobble like a drunken peasant. He scolds. You resist the urge to point out that if you had the time and money to drink like a peasant, you wouldn't be here. Instead, you bow your head, mumble an apology, and try again. Training goes on for what feels like hours. The sun climbs higher, the sweat drips faster, and your legs start to tremble. You sneak glances at Sato, who looks just as miserable, and Yuki, who seems to be enjoying herself a little too much. Finally, mercifully, Genji claps his hands. Enough. Lunch. You stagger off the practice ground, legs shaking, arms numb. Lunch is more rice, more soup, and a slice of pickled radish that tastes like regret. You sit with Sato and Yuki, listening to their quiet banter, trying not to think about the afternoon chores. You wonder, not for the first time, if this is really what you signed up for. Honor, glory, and the occasional poetry reading, sure. But no one mentioned the blisters, the boredom, or the endless grinding routine. After lunch, you're assigned to guard duty at the front gate. Exciting, right? Standing motionless for hours while your feet slowly turn into blocks of wood. You watch the world go by. Merchants hauling carts, peasants bowing so deeply you're worried they'll never get up, children running past with wooden swords, pretending to be heroes. Occasionally, one of the older samurai will nod at you, a silent reminder that you're not to speak unless spoken to. You stand there, sweat trickling down your face, eyelids drooping, wishing for a breeze. Every so often, you shift your weight, trying not to let your knees lock up. The afternoon drags on. The sun moves across the sky in what feels like slow motion. You start inventing games to keep yourself awake, counting the number of times a sparrow lands on the gate, trying to guess how many grains of rice are stuck in your teeth, imagining what it would be like to just walk away and never come back. You're snapped out of your daydream by a commotion inside the compound. Shouts, hurried footsteps, the unmistakable clatter of armor. You straighten up, heart pounding, as a group of senior retainers marches past, faces grim. Sato appears at your side, eyes wide. "What's happening?" you whisper. He shrugs. "No idea, but it's probably not good." You swallow, throat dry. In your experience, nothing good ever comes from that many important people moving that quickly. You stand at attention, praying you won't be noticed, hoping whatever disaster is brewing won't splash onto you. The rest of the afternoon passes in a haze of anxiety. When your shift finally ends, you're exhausted not from action, but from anticipation. You find Yuki in the barracks, polishing her sword with a care that borders on obsessive. "Any idea what that was about?" you ask. She shakes her head. "Rumor is someone insulted the Lord's poetry. Could be nothing, could be everything." You nod, not sure whether to laugh or cry. Of all the things to die for, bad poetry has to be near the top of the list for sheer absurdity. The evening meal is more of the same. Rice, soup, vegetables boiled to within an inch of their lives. The room is quiet, the mood tense. You eat quickly, not tasting the food, your mind racing with what-ifs. Sato cracks a joke about the Lord declaring war on metaphors, but no one laughs. After dinner, there's a brief respite time to clean your armor, sharpen your sword, and try to scrub the day's grime from your skin. You sit in the dim light, running a whetstone over the blade, the rhythmic scrape almost soothing. Yuki joins you, her presence comforting in its familiarity. "Think we'll ever get out of here?" she asks, voice barely above a whisper. You shrug. "Doubt it. But maybe one day they'll let us go on campaign, see the world, die somewhere interesting." She smiles, sad and tired. Better than dying of boredom. You both laugh, the sound hollow and a little desperate. As night falls, you crawl back onto your tatami mat, muscles aching, mind racing. You listen to the sounds of the barracks' snoring quiet conversation, the distant bark of the dog under the veranda. You close your eyes, willing yourself to sleep, knowing that tomorrow will be more of the same. You dream of swords and rice and bowing, always bowing until your back cracks and your knees give out. You wake up with a start, heart pounding, sweat slick on your skin. For a moment, you forget where you are, what you are. Then the reality settles in, samurai. Not a hero, not a legend, just another body in the endless cycle of duty and disappointment. Welcome to the way of the warrior. Hope you brought ointment for that foot rot. It's amazing what your body can get used to, isn't it? You'd think after a day spent marinating in your own sweat, bowing to anything with a pulse, and eating rice so bland it makes plain water taste like a delicacy, you'd get some kind of break. But no, the universe, or at least your Lord, has other plans. You wake up the next morning with your face stuck to the tatami mat, drool forming a small but ambitious pond under your cheek. For a moment, you hope you've died in your sleep. No such luck. Welcome back to another glorious day in the samurai grind. Hey, you again? Still here? If you haven't run screaming into the mountains or taken up basket weaving instead, maybe you're one of us. Don't forget to follow if you like your history with a kick of reality and a sprinkle of sarcasm. Seriously, drop your location and time, unless you're currently getting ready to recite a poem for your Lord's breakfast entertainment, in which case, good luck, you'll need it. Now, let's get back to not dying of boredom or worse, embarrassment. You make your way to the communal washing area, which is just a fancy way of saying bucket and cold water. The air bites at your skin as you splash yourself awake, trying not to think about where the water came from or what else might be floating in it. Sato's already there, shivering and swearing under his breath. He scrapes a rag across his face with the same enthusiasm you reserve for cleaning fish guts. "Morning," he grunts, eyes red-rimmed and puffy. "You sleep?" You shake your head. "About as well as usual. Dreamt I was back home. Woke up to Yuki kicking me in the ribs." Sato shrugs. "Could be worse. Could be Genji." You both shudder in unison. Genji's wake-up calls involve a stick and no warning. You'd rather take your chances with Yuki's feet. Speaking of Yuki, she appears around the corner, arms folded, face set in a scowl that could curdle miso. She gives you both a look that says, "Don't even think about talking to me before I've had my rice." You nod, understanding. Some mornings, words are just too heavy. Breakfast is the same as always, rice, soup, and the faintest hope that one day the cook will snap and season something out of spite. You chew in silence, listening to the low murmur of the other samurai. Someone coughs, someone else farts loudly and pretends nothing happened. You marvel at the sheer audacity. As you eat, Sato leans over. "Heard the Lord's meeting with the regional inspector today. Could be interesting." You raise an eyebrow. Interesting as in, we all get a bonus, or someone loses a head. He shrugs, mouth full. Both, maybe. You sigh. Your life is a never-ending gamble where the house always wins and the prize is not getting fired. Or, beheaded. After breakfast, you're assigned to the stables. The smell hits you like a wall hay, manure, sweat, and something that might once have been a horse, but is now an unidentifiable stain on the floor. The stable master, a squat man named Kenji, greets you with a wave of his pitchfork. "Get to cleaning," he says, not bothering to look up from his work. "And mind the filly." She bites. You glance at Sato, who grins. "Why do the animals here have more personality than we do?" "Because they don't have to bow," you mutter, grabbing a shovel. You spend the next hour shoveling muck, trying not to breathe too deeply. Yuki joins you, sleeves rolled up, hair tied back in a messy knot. She works fast, efficient, barely breaking a sweat. You envy her energy. "Rumor is," she says, voice low, "the inspector's looking for someone to blame for last season's poor harvest. Guess who's at the top of the list?" You grimace. "Let me guess. Us?" She snorts. "Always us. Never the Lord, never the overseers. Just the people who actually do the work." Sato laughs, a dry, bitter sound. "Circle of life." You finish mucking out the stalls and head back to the barracks, arms aching, boots caked in filth. You try to scrape the worst of it off on the step, but it's a losing battle. Your feet will never really be clean again. You're pretty sure you've grown a second skin made entirely of dirt and disappointment. Mid-morning brings weapons drill. Genji is in a particularly bad mood, which for Genji means he's only yelling half as much as usual and hitting twice as hard. You line up with the others, wooden swords at the ready, sweat already beating at your temples. The drill is endless. Block, thrust, parry, repeat. Your muscles burn, your hands blister, and your mind wanders. You think about home, about your mother's cooking, your father's stories, the smell of fresh-cut grass after a summer rain. It feels like another life, one where you weren't constantly worried about offending someone with more power and less sense than you. Genji's stick cracks across your knuckles, snapping you back to reality. "Focus," he barks. "You think the enemy will give you time to daydream?" You bite back a retort, bow your head, and keep moving. Block, thrust, parry, repeat. The rhythm is hypnotic, almost soothing if you ignore the pain. After an eternity, Genji calls a halt. You stagger off the field, hands shaking, vision swimming. Yuki flops down beside you, breathing hard. Sato limps over, cradling his wrist. This is the life, Sato groans. Glory, honor, and third-degree splinters. You laugh, a harsh sound. At least we're not dead yet. Yuki grins. Give it time. Lunch is a welcome break, if you can call it that. More rice, more soup, a chunk of dried fish that tastes like salted leather. You eat quickly, eager for a moment's peace. The barracks are quiet, the tension thick. Everyone's waiting for news about the inspector. As you finish your meal, a junior retainer bursts in, face pale. The inspector's here, he stammers. Lord wants everyone in the courtyard, now. You groan, hauling yourself to your feet. Sato mutters a curse. Yuki rolls her eyes. You shuffle out into the sunlight, joining the line of samurai forming in the courtyard. The inspector is a thin, sharp-faced man with eyes like a hawk and a mouth that never quite smiles. He stands beside your lord, who looks as relaxed as a man sitting on a volcano. The speeches begin. The inspector talks about duty, honor, and the importance of accountability. Your lord nods along, face a mask of polite interest. You try to look attentive, but your mind drifts. The sun beats down, sweat pools in the small of your back, and your knees threaten to collapse. Then the inspector starts asking questions, hard questions, about harvest numbers, patrol schedules, missing supplies. You shift nervously, praying you won't be singled out. No such luck. You, the inspector snaps, pointing at you. Step forward, your stomach drops. You bow, stepping forward, heart pounding. Tell me, he says, why did the rice yield fall this year? You stammer, trying to find the right words. There was a drought, honorable inspector, and the soil? He cuts you off. Excuses, always excuses. You bow deeper, biting your tongue. Sato shoots you a sympathetic look. Yuki glares at the inspector, but wisely keeps her mouth shut. The questioning goes on, each answer more dangerous than the last. You sweat, you bow, you pray you won't say the wrong thing. Finally, the inspector moves on. You shuffle back into line, legs trembling. Afterwards, you and the others retreat to the barracks, nerves frayed. Could have been worse, Sato mutters. He could have asked about the missing sake. Yuki grins. Or the time you fell asleep during patrol. Sato scowls. That was one time, and I wasn't asleep. I was meditating. You laugh, the tension easing. For a moment, you almost forget how precarious your life is. The rest of the day passes in a blur of chores and drills. You scrub floors, polish armor, and listen to endless lectures about honor and duty. Your mind drifts. Your body moves on autopilot. As evening falls, you gather with Sato and Yuki in the courtyard, watching the sun dip below the horizon. Think the inspector will leave tomorrow? You ask. Sato shrugs. If he doesn't, we might. Yuki snorts. Where would we go? The next village. We'd just end up cleaning someone else's stable. You nod, staring at the fading light. At least the rice might be better. Sato laughs. You're an optimist. That'll get you killed. You grin, feeling strangely hopeful. Maybe, just maybe, things will change. But as night falls and you crawl onto your tatami mat, you know better. Tomorrow will be the same, bowing, scraping, sweating, and hoping you don't draw the short straw. You close your eyes, listening to the familiar sounds of the barracks. Someone snores. Someone whispers a prayer. You drift off, dreaming of home, of freedom, of a life where you're more than just another face in the crowd. But even in your dreams, you're still a samurai, still bowing, still scraping, still waiting for something better. Welcome to the way of the warrior. Hope you brought a sense of humor. You're going to need it. Nothing says romance like the scent of unwashed bodies and leftover fish soup fermenting in the corners. If you're hoping for a forbidden love story, you've come to the right place. As long as your idea of seduction involves exchanging foot rot remedies and debating which lice bite is most scenic. Oh, you're still here. Welcome back, loyal glutton for punishment. If this tale of honor, sweat, and existential dread keeps you warm at night, hit follow so I can keep shoveling history into your ears. Tell me where you're listening from and what time it is. Are you hiding under a futon or just stuck in traffic? Either way, let's get back to your regularly scheduled misery. It's sometime before dawn, again, which means the only thing separating today from yesterday is whichever new muscle decides to hurt first. You're lying awake, staring at the ceiling beams, counting the splinters you could pick out of them if you ever had free time. Spoiler alert, you won't. The air is thick with the sour tang of sweat and wet straw, and there's a quiet chorus of snoring from every direction, except Sato's, whose nose whistles one long, terminally annoyed note. You wonder if you could kill him with a pillow and get away with it. Probably not. There's always someone watching. You roll over, knees and back popping like rice crackers, and catch Yuki's silhouette by the window. She's awake, too, her jaw set, eyes scanning the yard as if she can will the sun to rise faster. You know she's not sleeping because she never does not really. Too much to worry about, too much to lose. You wonder what she dreams about. Probably the same thing as you. A bath hot enough to boil a carp and a meal with actual flavor. Sato grunts, flopping onto his side. You up? He rasps, voice half buried in his blanket. You grunt back. No, this is my ghost. Ha, he says, not laughing. If you're a ghost, can you haunt Genji for me? You smile into the darkness. Only if I get to watch. Yuki turns away from the window, arms folded tight. You two planning a mutiny or just fantasizing again? Both, Sato says, rolling upright. Depends on if breakfast is edible. You snort? So, definitely fantasizing. A bell clangs outside sharp, insistent, the signal for morning assembly. You drag yourself upright, joints crackling in protest. You pull on your jacket, stiff with yesterday's sweat, and join the shuffling line headed for the yard. The air outside is cold and biting, the ground hard under your feet. You stand shoulder to shoulder with the others, steam rising from your breath in tiny clouds. The senior retainer, beard icicled with condensation, starts the roll call. He drones through the names, stopping only to glare at anyone who looks too comfortable. You bow, bow, and bow again, your lower back screaming with each dip. Breakfast is a blur of gray rice and barely warm soup. The cook is in a foul mood, slopping food into bowls with the precision of a one-eyed cat. You sit with Yuki and Sato, picking at your meal, already bracing for whatever fresh hell today will bring. Sato nudges you. Heard the inspector's still here. Saw his horse by the main gate. Yuki grimaces. Maybe he'll choke on a fishbone and save us all the trouble. You chuckle, but you can't quite shake the knot of dread in your stomach. The inspector's presence is like a bad smell everywhere, impossible to ignore. No one's sure why he's still poking around, but the senior samurai are tense, the servants are jumpy, and even the lord seems less smug than usual. After breakfast, Genji appears, stick in hand, eyes narrowed to slits. "Training yard, now," he barks, and you all scramble to obey. You line up in the yard, wooden swords at your sides, the ground still damp from last night's rain. Genji paces in front of you, radiating disappointment. You wonder if he's ever smiled in his life. "Pair off," he orders. "Spar." You find yourself facing Yuki. She grins, all teeth. Try not to embarrass yourself. You bow, grip your sword, and begin. The first few strikes are slow, cautious. Yuki moves fast, nimble, her blade a blur. She knocks you off balance, and you stumble, nearly falling. Sato laughs from the sidelines, and you glare at him. "Focus," Yuki hisses, lunging forward. You parry, barely, sweat already stinging your eyes. The match drags on, neither of you giving ground. You can feel the eyes of the others on you, the weight of Genji's judgment. Finally, you manage a lucky strike, tapping Yuki's shoulder. She bows, grudging respect in her eyes. "Not bad," she says, breathing hard. You bow back, chest heaving. "You let me have that one." She smirks. "Don't get used to it." Genji claps his hands. "Switch." You rotate partners, this time facing Sato. He's slower, more methodical, but strong. He swings hard and you barely dodge, the crack of his sword echoing across the yard. You trade blows, sweat pouring down your face. Sato grins, teeth bared. "You're getting better," he pants. "Still not good enough," you mutter, ducking under his guard. He laughs, low and harsh. "Nobody is." After what feels like hours, Genji calls a halt. You collapse onto the ground, arms trembling. The others are just as battered, faces flushed, clothes soaked through. Genji surveys you all with a look of grudging approval. "You'll live," he says. "Most of you." You groan, hauling yourself upright. The morning sun is higher now, burning away the last traces of mist. You trudge back to the barracks, muscles screaming, fingers blistered. Yuki flops onto her mat, eyes closed. "If I die before lunch, tell my mother I hated the soup." Sato grins. "I'll tell her you died with honor, because of the soup." You laugh, the sound dry and brittle. For a moment, the tension eases. Lunch is another exercise in disappointment. Rice, soup, and a chunk of pickled vegetable that tastes faintly of mold. You eat quickly, not bothering to savor the flavorless meal. Afterwards, the junior retainer appears again, face pale, eyes wide. "Inspector wants to see you," he says, voice trembling. "All three of you." You exchange glances, stomach twisting. Yuki mutters a curse under her breath. You follow the retainer to the main hall, nerves jangling. The inspector waits inside, flanked by 2 senior samurai. His face is blank, unreadable. He gestures for you to kneel. You do, bowing low, forehead pressed to the floor. "I have questions," he says, voice sharp, "about the harvest, about the missing supplies, about discipline." You answer as best you can, choosing your words carefully. Yuki is blunt. Sato deflects with jokes. But the inspector is relentless. He digs into every detail, probing for weakness. He finally waves you away, eyes cold. "Do better," he says, "or there will be consequences." You bow again, backs stiff, and stumble out of the hall, hearts pounding. Sato lets out a shaky breath. "That was fun." Yuki punches his arm. "Idiot. He's looking for someone to blame." You nod, the weight of it settling on your shoulders. You know how this works. If the inspector can't find a scapegoat, he'll make one. The rest of the afternoon is a haze of chores and worry. You scrub floors, polish armor, try to lose yourself in the rhythm of work. But your mind keeps circling back to the inspector's words. After dinner, the barracks are quiet. You sit with Sato and Yuki, staring into the gloom. "What if he chooses us?" Yuki asks, voice small. Sato shrugs. "Then we die, or we run." You shake your head. "Where would we go?" Sato grins, but there's no humor in it. "Anywhere but here." You fall silent, the weight of your future pressing down on you. As night falls, you crawl onto your mat, sleep eluding you. You stare at the ceiling, listening to the rain drumming on the roof. You dream of running through forests, across fields, always looking over your shoulder. You wake, heart racing, sweat slick on your skin. Another day begins. The next morning brings new orders. You're assigned to patrol the outer fields, a welcome change from the barracks. Even if it means slogging through mud and brambles, you trudge through the fields, sword at your side, boots sinking into the muck. The air is thick with the scent of damp earth and growing rice. Sato walks ahead, humming tunelessly. Yuki brings up the rear, eyes scanning the horizon. The fields are quiet, the only sounds the chirping of insects and the distant calls of birds. You breathe deeply, savoring the illusion of freedom. Sato glances back. "Remember when we used to dream about this?" You grin. "Yeah, we were idiots." He laughs, shaking his head. "We still are." Yuki snorts. "Speak for yourself." You smile, the tension easing. The patrol is uneventful. No bandits, no drama, just endless walking. You stop to rest under a tree, sharing what little water you have. Yuki leans back, eyes closed. "If I ever get out of here, I'm never eating rice again." Sato grins. "You'll miss it, like an old wound." She laughs, the sound bright in the quiet. You watch the clouds drift overhead, feeling oddly at peace. The walk back is slower, the sun dipping low. You arrive at the gates, boots caked with mud, clothes streaked with dirt. The barracks are busy, samurai coming and going, the air buzzing with gossip. The inspector is leaving finally, his entourage trailing behind him. You breathe a sigh of relief, tension draining from your shoulders. Sato grins. "We survived." Yuki rolls her eyes. "For now." You laugh, feeling lighter. That night, the mood in the barracks is almost festive. Someone produces a bottle of sake, and you pass it around, sharing quiet jokes and stories. Yuki raises her cup. To surviving another day, you clink your cup against hers. To not being the scapegoat. Sato grins. To better rice. You drink, the sake burning down your throat, warming you from the inside out. For a moment, you almost feel happy. But happiness is fleeting. The next morning brings new orders, preparations for a campaign. The Lord has decided it's time to show strength, to remind the neighbors who's in charge. You spend the day packing supplies, sharpening weapons, checking armor. The barracks buzz with nervous energy, some excited, most anxious. Yuki is quiet, her face set. Sato jokes, but you can see the fear in his eyes. That night, you gather in the courtyard, watching the moon rise. The air is thick with anticipation. Yuki breaks the silence. "You think we'll make it back?" Sato shrugs. "Depends on who we're fighting." You nod, staring at the moon. "I just hope we get decent food." They laugh, the sound shaky. You lay awake that night, heart pounding. You dream of battle of swords flashing, blood spilling, bodies falling. You wake, breathless, the taste of fear sharp in your mouth. The next day, you march out with the others, armor clanking, banners snapping in the wind. The campaign is grueling long days of marching, cold nights under the stars, meals snatched in snatches between orders. You fight, you bleed, you survive. You see friends fall, names crossed off the roll call. You grow harder, sharper, the softness burned away by fear and exhaustion. Sato fights beside you, never far from your side. Yuki leads the charge, her blade flashing, her voice steady. You learn to trust them, to rely on them. You share food, water, laughter, and pain. The campaign drags on, each day blending into the next. You lose track of time, of hunger, of hope. But you endure, you survive. When the campaign finally ends, you return to the castle thinner, harder, changed. The barracks feel smaller, the air heavier. You mourn the friends you lost, the innocence you shed. But you also find strength in yourself, in your companions. You sit with Yuki and Sato, sharing a silent meal. The rice tastes the same, but you are different. Sato raises his cup to making it home. You clink your cup against his, Yuki joining in. You smile, tired but alive. Life goes on as it always does. You wake, you bow, you fight, you survive. Welcome to the way of the warrior. Hope you're still laughing. You'll need it. You ever notice how the smell of boiled rice, old sweat, and disappointment just seeps into your very soul after a while? If you could bottle this fragrance, you'd make a killing selling anti-romance candles. Hey there, chronic masochist, still listening. If you like your history bleak and your banter blacker, hit follow so I can keep dragging you through the mud. Drop a comment with your coordinates and local time, unless you're currently hiding from your boss, in which case, blink twice for help. Now, let's get back to the glamorous life of post-campaign samurai, where nothing says victory like a ration of cold gruel and a new scar that refuses to heal. It's been 3 days since you stumbled back through the castle gates, armor dented, feet blistered, and spirit somewhere between broken and numb. You'd think there'd be a parade, or at least a hot bath for surviving your Lord's glorious campaign. Instead, there's just more work. You're back in the barracks, peeling off your sweat-stiffened clothes, the aches in your body outnumbered only by the regrets in your mind. Sato flops onto his mat with a groan that could curdle milk. Yuki sits beside her gear, hands trembling as she cleans her blade with the care you usually reserve for picking rocks out of your rice. Sato cracks his neck, wincing. Remind me, why do we keep doing this? You stare at the ceiling, tracing a crack that wasn't there before. Because we're too stubborn to die and too stupid to run. He snorts, rolling onto his side. Speak for yourself. I'm just in it for the free lice. Yuki glances up, a thin smile flickering across her face. You're welcome to mine. They're getting bored. You laugh a brittle, exhausted sound, the kind you only hear from people who've seen too much and slept too little. Someone down the row coughs, a wet, hacking sound that makes you all grimace. The barracks air is thick with dust, sweat, and secrets nobody wants to share. You lie back, letting the dull ache in your legs wash over you, and wonder if you'll ever feel clean again. Night falls heavy, pressing in around the thin walls. Outside, the drizzle taps at the roof, a lullaby for the damned. You can't sleep. You listen as Sato's breathing evens out, as Yuki mutters to herself in the dark. You think about the men and women who didn't come back. You try not to remember their faces, but they drift through your mind anyway, fleeting, ghostly, gone. The next morning is no kinder. You wake to the sharp crack of Genji's stick against the door, his voice slicing through the gloom. Up. Inspection. You groan, dragging yourself upright, every muscle protesting. Sato's hair is stuck to his face in greasy clumps. Yuki's eyes are ringed with shadows. You all stumble outside, lining up in the chill dawn air, your uniforms wrinkled and stained. Genji stalks the line like a wolf among sheep, eyes narrowed, stick tapping against his palm. Pathetic, he mutters, pausing in front of you. You call this a warrior? Stand up straight. You grit your teeth, forcing your shoulders back, ignoring the way your ribs protest. Sato leans over, whispering just loud enough for you to hear, "Maybe if we look pathetic enough, he'll let us go back to bed." Genji whirls, stick raised. "Something to share, Sato." Sato bows, face perfectly blank. "No, Sensei, just admiring your stick." A few snickers ripple through the line. Genji's scowl deepens, but he moves on, muttering curses under his breath. You exhale, tension easing. Sato shoots you a wink, but the relief is short-lived. The day's orders are posted, a fresh list of chores, drills, and patrols. You scan the sheet, heart sinking. You're on kitchen duty again. Because nothing says elite warrior like peeling radishes for men who'd rather stab you than thank you. You trudge to the kitchen where the cook greets you with a snort. He's missing 3 teeth and most of his kindness. "About time," he grumbles, tossing you a knife. "Try not to ruin anything." You set to work slicing vegetables with the same care you use sharpening your sword. Yuki appears at your elbow, hair tied back, eyes alert. She starts washing rice, her movements quick and precise. Sato drifts in a moment later, tasked with hauling water. He grins at you both, splashing water onto the floor. "Bet you never thought you'd miss the battlefield, huh?" he says. You shake your head, flicking a radish slice at him. "At least out there, people tried to kill you to your face." The 3 of you fall into a rhythm chopping, washing, hauling. The kitchen is warm, the air thick with steam, and the sharp tang of pickles. You almost forget for a moment that you're supposed to be miserable. Then the cook shouts at you for cutting the carrots too thick, and the spell breaks. After lunch, you're summoned to the Lord's Hall. You bow your way through a maze of courtyards and corridors, the stone floors cold under your bare feet. The hall is grand in a way that only old money and a complete lack of taste can be lacquered wood, faded banners, and a smell that reminds you of moldy paper and boiled fish. Your lord sits on a raised platform, expression unreadable. Beside him, the senior retainer stands like a statue, beard quivering with disapproval. You kneel, forehead pressed to the floor. Sato and Yuki do the same, silent and still. The Lord speaks, voice low and measured. "You fought well. Some of you returned, some did not." He pauses, letting the silence stretch. "The world is changing. Our enemies grow stronger. Our rice grows weaker." His gaze sweeps over you. "What do you have to say for yourselves?" You choose your words carefully, heart pounding. "We serve, my lord. We endure." He nods, eyes narrowing. "Endure, yes, but can you adapt?" He gestures to his retainer, who steps forward, a scroll in his hands. "There will be new rules," the retainer intones, voice grave. "New taxes, new duties. Those who cannot keep up will be left behind." You bow lower, biting back a retort. Sato's hand clenches into a fist hidden in his sleeve. Yuki's jaw tightens. You sense the undercurrent of fear and resentment rippling through the room. The audience ends as suddenly as it began. You're dismissed, sent back to the barracks with a warning: work harder, train longer, bow deeper. You shuffle out, the weight of expectation pressing down on your shoulders. That night, the barracks are restless. Whispers dart through the gloom: speculation, complaint, the seeds of rebellion. Sato paces beside his mat, muttering curses. Yuki sharpens her sword with slow, deliberate strokes. You sit, staring at your hands. They're calloused, scarred, stained with dirt and blood. You wonder if you'll ever do anything else, if you're fated to spend your whole life bowing and scraping, surviving on scraps. Yuki speaks, voice soft. What would you do if you could leave? You shrug, staring at the wall. I don't know. Maybe open a noodle shop. Sleep in. Never bow again. She smiles, a real smile this time. You'd make terrible noodles. Sato flops down beside you, grinning. I'd be your first customer, as long as the sake is good. You laugh, the sound echoing in the quiet. For a moment, the future doesn't seem so bleak. But the next morning, reality returns with a vengeance. You're assigned to the fields, repairing dikes destroyed by the last storm. The mud sucks at your feet, cold and relentless. The work is back-breaking, hauling stones, packing earth, chasing off crows that seem smarter than half the samurai in your unit. Sato curses as a stone rolls onto his foot. This is what glory looks like, huh? You grunt, wiping sweat from your brow. If only the poets knew. Yuki works in silence, her movements efficient. She pauses, glancing at you. At least we're out here, away from the Lord's lectures. You nod, grateful for small mercies. The field stretches out before you, green and gold under the sun. Somewhere in the distance a child laughs, the sound floating on the breeze. For a moment, you remember what hope feels like. That night, you gather in the barracks, sharing stolen rice balls and whispered jokes. Sato tells a story about a dog that outranked a samurai in the next province over. Yuki rolls her eyes, but you can see the amusement in her smile. You fall asleep to the sound of rain on the roof, dreaming of better days. The following weeks blur together, drills, chores, endless training. The Lord's new rules tighten around your throat like a noose. Taxes rise, food rations shrink, punishments grow harsher. The mood in the barracks darkens. Fights break out first over food, then over honor, then over nothing at all. One night, a junior samurai is dragged out into the courtyard, accused of theft. You watch as he kneels, head bowed, waiting for judgment. The Lord appears, face cold and hard. Without a word, he draws his sword. The blade flashes, and it's over. The body is dragged away, the blood washed from the stones. You stare at the spot where he fell, heart pounding. Sato stands beside you, face pale. Yuki's fists are clenched, knuckles white. Don't give them a reason, she whispers. Not ever. You nod, swallowing hard. The lesson is clear obedience or death. After that, everything feels sharper. Every word, every glance, every mistake. You move through your days like a shadow, careful, silent, invisible. But even shadows have limits. One evening, you're summoned to the training yard. Genji waits, stick in hand, eyes cold. Show me what you've learned, he says. You bow, drawing your sword. The others gather, silent, watching. You move through the forms block, thrust, parry, repeat. Genji circles you, barking corrections, striking when you falter. You grit your teeth, pushing through the pain. Sato watches, eyes narrowed. Yuki stands at your side, silent support. Finally, Genji steps back, nodding. Better. Not good, but better. You bow, breathless. The others disperse, muttering. Sato claps you on the shoulder. You lived. That's something. You smile, tired. It's always something. As the sun sets, you sit with your friends, sharing what little sake you have left. The air is cool, the sky streaked with red and gold. Yuki leans against your shoulder, eyes closed. Someday, she murmurs, things will change. You nod, watching the stars appear. Someday. But for now, you endure, you survive, you laugh, because the alternative is crying, and there's no honor in tears. You lie back, staring at the sky, the weight of the world pressing down. You think about all the things you've lost, the friends, the freedom, the dreams. You think about all the things you still have, the laughter, the loyalty, the stubborn, stupid hope that things might get better. You close your eyes, letting the sounds of the barracks wash over you, snoring, laughter, the quiet hum of life. You drift off, dreaming of noodle shops and warm baths, of a world where you're more than just a name on a roll call. But even in your dreams, you're still a samurai, still bowing, still fighting, still surviving. Welcome to the way of the warrior. Hope you remembered to bring a sense of humor. You're going to need it every single day. And if you ever manage to escape, don't forget to send a postcard, preferably one that doesn't smell like boiled rice and regret.